Council President Juarez and members of the Seattle City Council, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to join you on my first report on the state of the city. I entered office 6 weeks ago with a commitment to a new approach to a vision of what I've referred to as One Seattle, defined by a commitment to listen to and to work with one another toward shared goals rooted in urgency and action. And I'm pleased to be joined by members of my executive committee who I know you are already working closely with every day. From the mayor's office, you'll never hear me or members of my administration attack your integrity or your commitment to solve the problems that both of our branches of government face. I hope you'll share this approach, and I've heard loudly and clearly that is what the public wants. Our priorities do not have to contradict. Instead of looking at differing opinions as mutually exclusive, we can look to the politics of A and D, the right number of officers and the right kind of officers, more housing and vibrant, unique neighborhoods, climate justice and new jobs, diversity and commonality. All of us on this call and throughout Seattle have much more in common than we're often told. Let's build on this spirit of unity. That concept should be our baseline, not the proposition that we are perpetually divided. Now, that's how we built the Space Needle. That's how we cleaned up Lake Washington. That's how we created libraries and parks, and how Seattle became one of the most desirable American cities to live in. One Seattle means a renewed focus on good governance and tangible progress, on nuance and conversation. I believe this group right here, us, that we can and will set a new tone and a new example for what can be achieved when we hit reset and chart a shared agenda for our city together. Council President Deborah Juarez's historic unanimous election to the council presidency shows that you believe in this spirit of unity the same way that I do. She is the right person to lead the council. Her trademark responsiveness and her collaborative nature, even her sense of humor, are already making a real difference. It's my hope, however, that she does not order the clerk to hit the mute button, because I have some plans that I'd like to share with you. We need her leadership because the challenges facing Seattle are difficult, some of the most difficult the Seattle has ever faced. The city's ever faced. The truth is that the status quo is unacceptable. That is one area where we must all agree. It seems like every day I hear stories of longtime small businesses closing their doors for good or leaving our city, or of families forever changed because of senseless tragedy or driven by gun violence or overdose, of rising rents and an inability to pay bills or find housing, of climate impacts, of disillusioned youth and residents who don't feel seen or heard. Now, as we come out of COVID recovery, Seattle can and will be so much more. This is my core belief, and will be the driving principle behind our administration. It is clear to me that the public deserves to see change and to know that we are acting with a sense of urgency required by this moment. So in my first 6 weeks in office, you're seeing us in real time build sustainable systems that will move our city forward. Now, quite candidly, perhaps because of the pandemic, I did not inherit clear departmental systems to adequately address the conditions of public safety or homelessness. I'd like to be clear on a point. I believe in going back to the basics. That's where good governance begins. The basics includes efforts like our Housing First policy, fixing a pothole, making sure our sidewalks and parks are safe for children and families to use, making sure we enforce our criminal laws against those who are harming others. Now, we lead with and acknowledge the fact that African Americans have been subject to 400 years of institutional racism, that the exploitation of our indigenous people has been woven into the fabric of this country since its inception, and that in 2022 we've seen anti-Asian hate and anti-Semitism at alarming levels. Those understandings should be part of our basics as well, and just as important. Going back to the basics means serving the public and the entire public, and it means serving them well. That's why you heard me 2 weeks ago talk about my commitment to public safety in the face of a report showing significant increases in violent crime and an over 40% increase in shots fired last year. I shared results of immediate action to address crime and look at the data to recognize which neighborhoods and communities are most impacted by public safety issues. Now, this is not rocket science. I think what is critical and new, however, is that we remain wholly committed to avoiding the mistakes of the past. My administration is reaching out to members of the Criminal Defense Bar, many of whom are my friends, to let them know that when we make arrests, we will make sure constitutional rights are protected, that alternative forms other than arrest are explored, that treatment plans are in place, and that a militarized or racialized approach will not be tolerated. We provided specific arrest numbers and the amounts of stolen goods recovered, and describe how dozens of vulnerable people caught up in a web of organized retail theft and other crimes were assisted without incarceration. This is just one example of how we define progress, not just with law enforcement, but also with community engagement, outreach, support, social services. It means not just addressing gun violence, but preventing it through input and solutions from the communities most impacted, along with groundbreaking laws, local and regional collaboration, and innovative technologies. We've already begun rolling out elements of our public safety plan, and you'll soon hear more details about how integral this holistic approach to public safety is for every Seattle neighborhood. Now, part of that plan requires more officers. The depleted staffing we see today does not allow us to react to emergencies and crime with the response times that our residents deserve. It does not allow us to staff the specialty teams we need for issues like domestic violence or DUI or financial crimes that target our elderly. It does not allow us to conduct the thorough investigations we expect to make sustainable change. Now, I recently spoke with Ms. Monica Alexander, the Executive Director of the Criminal Justice Training Commission, about what it will take from the City of Seattle to make sure we have a healthy pipeline of Seattle police officers. In June of this year, 2022, we'll have a special Seattle-only focused class at the Police Academy. This will mean the next 36 new officers we need to help us reach our public safety goals will come out of that effort. We have funding to hire 125 new officers this year. So in addition to this special training class, we are rolling out a new campaign to recruit the next generation of Seattle Police. But it is important that this will be consistent with the values I expect to see in our officers, the culture of the department, the engagement with community, the understanding that justice requires serving the people. Even if you're watching today and interested in helping make our city more safe and just and supportive, please reach out. We are hiring. You recently heard from Chief Diaz about requiring new recruits as part of their training to dive into and know the communities they'll be working in before they take office. As I said earlier, the right number of police officers and the right kind of police officers. We can have safety and we can have reform. This will be the administration that ends the federal consent decree over the Seattle Police Department. The administration that guides our police to be more accountable, more innovative, focused, and representative. I've been very pleased with the early priorities Public Safety Chair Lisa Herbold and I have aligned on, and I look forward to continuing to work with her on swift and long-term action, including efforts to improve how we assign and deploy safety resources like the Nurse Navigation 911 program I announced last week that Councilmember Herbold was integral in making possible. To me, public safety means more than just stopping crime. It means ensuring people get the help they need when they need it, and that our systems are built for the safety of all people. I'd like to continue my discussions with you about the creation of a third kind of public safety department, staffed by community members who have the training to be culturally competent masters of de-escalation. We know that every problem cannot be solved with a gun and a badge response. And I'm intrigued by the creation of the Community Safety and Communication Center, the CSCC, as we explore options to move away from a police-centered approach to public safety and focus more on harm reduction. Another example of alignment is the launch of the Health One Unit 3 that expands beyond downtown Seattle to serve South Seattle neighborhoods during non-emergency events like substance abuse or behavioral health issues, and connecting access to services. Our willingness to listen to crisis intervention ideas from Seattle firefighters, Local 27, will prove invaluable as we move forward on developing more effective responses to these non-emergency events. I fully agree with this kind of approach. This third department will allow fire and police to focus on addressing the emergencies where they're most needed. We've embarked upon preliminary discussions with Seattle colleges about building out this kind of curriculum and how we can encourage our Seattle Promise students and BIPOC communities to consider a career in helping protect their communities. The time to build this department is now. As we get into the budget process, I will share further steps in this regard. Now, we will also work closely with our new city attorney, Ann Davison, on the issue of public safety and make sure this new approach to public safety is aligned with her office's strategies, and I'm confident that they are. Together, we recognize the importance of ensuring we hold bad actors accountable and build a criminal legal system that looks comprehensively at delivering fairness and true justice for everybody. The homelessness crisis must be treated like the crisis that it is. Later this week, I will share under a major announcement about the future of our efforts to bring people inside with our executive Dow Constantine at the county and the RHA CEO Mark Dones and other philanthropic, business, and civic leaders consistent with the approach the City Council that you've supported. We will strongly pursue a regional solution to homelessness. The Regional Homelessness Authority is now operational and estimates that more than 40,000 people experiencing homelessness across this region are here. It's time to finally implement real and overdue regional coordination and the urgency of true crisis response to this challenge. As part of the governing committee, I'm working with CEO Mark Dones to ensure the right strategies are in place that will lead to real sustainable change. I'm also advocating at the state and federal level, working with Governor Inslee before I even took office to advocate for hundreds of millions of dollars to go toward housing and services and improved right-of-way coordination, and with the Housing and Urban Development Secretary, Marcia Fudge, to secure federal support. But let's be clear, Seattle's efforts will not pause while regional actions ramp up. In our first 6 weeks, we've been thoroughly evaluating the city's existing systems for addressing the impacts of homelessness, working to immediately create more efficient and effective solutions. When we entered office, the city had 6 different systems in 6 different departments tracking outreach and services to homelessness and vulnerable neighbors. Some tracked the number of people. Some tracked the number of tents. While individual staff strived to work together, overall systems were not coordinated. And for the Harrell administration, this is not acceptable. We have since combined these efforts into one system with cross-departmental expectations of coordination that will form the backbone of not only a transparent dashboard to track progress, but also, and more importantly, to better help people off of sidewalks and into shelter and services. Further, if a person wanted to report their concern about an encampment with the city did not have a centralized system to log their report and act. Now, for the first time, we're putting the necessary people and processes in place to address the more than 1,500 reports we've received from the public just since we've taken office. Our new system will allow us to take action, share updates, and provide a more complete picture of what's happening in Seattle. Now, these are the kinds of systems issues where we must do better. Now, along with systems reform, we need new units of housing, and I'm aggressively pursuing alternative shelter options, considering a wide array of opportunities, including leasing and buying existing buildings. Beyond housing, we also urgently need more and better mental health and addiction treatment services and staffing for the providers and workers who deliver these services, including better wages and benefits to keep people in this demanding profession. Now, I know this is an area where Councilmember Andrew Lewis is bringing leadership as committee chair, along with a dedication to the details to find housing solutions and to get people off the streets. I look forward to this collaborative work. My administration's early work has meant reducing silos locally and regionally, collecting better data, and ensuring departments work together. Our administration is developing a new interdepartmental team, the Unified Care Team, the UCT. The UCT will collect and provide streamlined data to the public, coordinate across departments with one voice, and ensure our plan and progress are clear for all. Because we can help people living unsheltered, and we can restore parks and make sidewalks accessible for all. Over the last several months, the city has closed some of the largest encampments Seattle has seen, like Green Lake or Broadview Thompson and the Ballard Commons, providing over 400 people with shelter and support. However, no one who looks around our city today would say our work is anywhere near complete. So we will continue our efforts on top priorities like Woodland Park, where we are working directly alongside Councilmember Dan Strauss, the RHA, and community groups to support neighbors in connecting those living unhoused with appropriate shelter and services. Now, Woodland Park is a gem in our city. And trash and fires and continued inhumane conditions are not acceptable, period. I want to thank Councilmember Strauss for his commitment to community engagement and demonstrable progress in this regard, and for neighbors across the city. Public spaces are for everyone in our city, and with many workers across our city returning to the office over the next several months, our focus must also ensure sidewalks are accessible to the public and clear of obstacles and obstructions. This is an essential obligation of our government. Just like continued work to provide shelter, housing, services, and support for those experiencing homelessness. We are not yet out of the woods with the pandemic, but the steady decline in positive cases is much needed positive news. I'm confident that Seattle will keep up the best response in the nation as we learn to live with this virus going forward. As the Omicron wave begins to crest, and with over 90% of Seattle residents having received at least one dose of the vaccine, a renewed focus on return and recovery has become even more essential. That includes city employees, our own return to the office. City workers have persevered through incredible challenges during the pandemic, including the more than 65%. Now, that's over 7,000 employees who have continued to bravely work in the field and in person over the last 2 years. This includes our staff who maintain our parks, or our crews who keep the power on at City Light, or our road workers who fix the roads and clear them when it snows, and our police and firefighters who respond to emergency calls, and crucially, Seattle Fire, who administer vaccines to our most vulnerable. In mid-March, we will bring back those employees who have been working from home. Now, I will tell you, it's been invigorating to work to the office and work around my colleagues and friends in person. Now, I know that this transition will not be easy for everyone, but I am confident that our department directors and our labor partners will lead this return to work effort in a thoughtful, safe, and compassionate manner. I know they are already deep in the work of ensuring an equitable recovery. Our COVID recovery must focus on the most impacted and the most vulnerable. Supporting small businesses, arts, our nightlife, childcare, youth, mental health support, and emergency rental assistance. We must get federal and state resources out in the community as soon as we can. City employees are up for the task as ambassadors for Seattle, committed to excellence and service for our constituents and neighbors. They inspire me every day. In just a short time on the job, I have also been impressed by the work of our city's departments and directors. The team we've built is strong, and I look forward to sending you a steady stream of permanent appointments over the next several months, starting with our city budget director, officer director, Julie Dingley. Just as you have all done, I'm very pleased that these leaders answered the call for public service. Now, critical to the state of the city is the state of our budget. I'm grateful that Director Dingley has done the hard work, necessary of alerting all of us to the real and foreseeable issues we're facing in the 2023 budget. Now, at this time, relative to 2023 spending, we will face a significant $150 million gap between our expected general fund expenditures and our general fund revenues. The result of a combination of factors, some longstanding as well as pandemic uncertainty, and some caused perhaps by the use of one-time budget funding sources like the American Rescue Plan Act dollars. Now, while the budget process may seem months away, we know ensuring a balanced budget is one of our core charter responsibilities. So yesterday we received some good news. We learned that revenue from the Jumpstart payroll expense tax has come in $31 million higher than expected. Now, that additional revenue must go toward alleviating the budget issues we expect in 2023. So we will need to look at all of our options, deciding between one-time and ongoing commitments, adjusting expenditures, revisiting existing funding sources, and looking at options for increasing revenues. This will be hard work, and it must begin now, which is why I've asked departments immediately to begin looking at opportunities to save. Now, while this is not as drastic as the Great Recession when I was on the council in 2008 and 2009, but we can do this. We've done this. It starts with transparency. It completes with a commitment to the basics like public safety and human services. As council pledged during last year's budget process, I too commit to addressing this challenge together. I know working alongside the strong leadership of Budget Chair Teresa Mosqueda, we will get to a budget that is financially sound and supports our values. Another top priority I know Councilmember Mosqueda and Councilmember Herbold are following closely is the West Seattle Bridge. The bridge remains one of the city's most pressing priorities, and even as I announced last week that the reopening schedule is threatened by the ongoing concrete work stoppage, you may recall so many of our projects involve concrete, from our waterfront Seattle program to our Ship Canal water quality control project, and just about every major SDOT priority, including the Madison Rapid Ride Line and the curb ramp and sidewalk installation improvements. I have been clear that the business and labor, they must return to the bargaining table and reach a fair agreement. This conflict continues to dangerously escalate in a way that helps no one and hurts everyone. To make my commitment to a just resolution clear, I offer this room to the workers and businesses anytime as a place to come together and resolve their disagreement. We can do this work. I want to thank Councilmember Alex Peterson for his close attention to the West Seattle Bridge project and to so many other critical infrastructure, bridge, and transportation projects. His eye for detail and his commitment to effective transportation solutions are outstanding. Within our transportation planning, we must advance urgently needed Vision Zero enhancements and improvements, working to prevent death and serious injury through streets that prioritize people. Public safety includes safe streets. I want to also highlight the importance of new groundbreakings for our waterfront program as part of the transformative investments to create over 20 acres of public space that all of the public can enjoy. Access to transit, safe streets, parks, sports, mentorship, those are the things that made a difference in my life. It made a difference in so many other people's lives. And these are the programs and infrastructure that help make our city welcoming and to families and kids and to connect our communities to our schools. We are forging a new relationship with our Seattle Public Schools at a time when supporting public education and the 56,000 kids enrolled in our Seattle schools has never been more important. Working with Superintendent Dr. Brent Jones and the school board, we are going to make sure Seattle students receive the support they need coming out of this pandemic and the educational tools to thrive in a changing economy. This support must start early. That's why I'm so excited that our nationally recognized Seattle preschool program will provide more than 2,100 seats for our youngest learners this year, and increase over 125 from last year. Most Seattle families qualify for free tuition, and over 3/4 of preschool program students are students of color. I look forward to partnering with Education Chair Tammy Morales on how we can do more for Seattle kids and students, including increase access to high quality, affordable preschool and to post-secondary education programs through the Seattle Promise. Now, her passion and her commitment to drive equity through education is a shared principle of ours. Councilmember Morales' commitment to not only District 2, which is the most important district of the 7 districts of the city. Oh, wait, I thought that sentence was deleted from the speech. Sorry about that. What I meant to say was her commitment to all districts of the city in education will be evidenced by our work together in 2022. I want small and local businesses to know that I hear them and that I am working to address their very real concerns. I am open to your ideas and looking forward to working with BIAs and small business districts on tangible improvements. That's why one of the first bills I've submitted to Council would fund additional resources for tourism with a small increase in the lodging fee, an effort supported by the downtown BIA and hotels and the hospitality industry. I know Councilmember Sarah Nelson shares my passion for helping small businesses. I am excited to see she is already bringing her dynamic experience in this arena to support her new ideas. Her background as a small business owner and her platform highlighting the importance that small businesses bring to all communities and communities of color will be instrumental in making sure our COVID recovery plans are successful. Supporting small businesses is a means to create equity in our city. Our work together must support businesses owned and operated by women, veterans, LGBTQ plus folks, and communities of color by improving contracting and access to capital, cutting red tape, and simplifying certification requirements. 20 cents of every dollar spent by the city last year went to women and minority-owned businesses and firms. I'm committing the city to increase that number and be held accountable for it. We can also do more to support working people, giving them the resources to support workforce development opportunities and living wages, and pushing innovative and nation-leading protections. Now, many of you heard me mention the formation of a Seattle Job Center, connecting workers and employers to new opportunities, workforce development, and apprenticeships. As Seattle City Light leads electrification and grid modernization efforts to reduce climate impacts, I want to make sure Seattleites benefit from new clean energy jobs. As we approach the budget cycle, I will prepare for the Council a white paper on what would we like to build in our job center. How can we further support the worker protections we've become known for in the Office of Labor Standards? We can plot a course not only to protect workers' rights, but to help them find new jobs and careers should they so choose. Now, I know Councilmember Shama Sawant cares deeply about addressing inequality. And in all of our years working together, I've never once doubted her commitment to that end and the commitment of those who believe in her mission. I look forward to working with her office, including investments in environmental justice and grants in the community, advancing justice priorities and critical climate action initiatives. To that end, our officer will be fully committed to operationalizing equity. While training and education within our ranks is important, I am asking our departments to go out in the field and ask, how does our commitment to equity and fighting inequality equate to those outside of City Hall? Underrepresented communities should not have to fight to be heard. Are we visiting their community centers, their churches, their mosques, their faith centers, their meeting places? When have we listened to communities outside of the walls of City Hall? That is good government. We are beginning our comprehensive plan update with that very principle in mind, ensuring that we're truly one Seattle by giving all communities, especially communities of color, a voice in shaping the future of our city. As we work to build a walkable, transit-oriented neighborhood with a housing supply that meets the needs of the future, this will be our approach. Small business support and workers' protections, home ownership opportunities and displacement protection, more housing and expanded tree canopy. Improving equity could take many forms. That's why we're also in the beginning stages of a comprehensive search for both our Transportation and Parks Department director. They will share and understand my vision for how these two major departments can be drivers of equity and opportunity in our city. Among the major equity initiatives in our office, I'm excited to share with you more details of my Healthy Seattle program in the first quarter of this year, so that health equity is at the center of our work. Similarly, let's continue to support healthy communities by growing Seattle's Fresh Bucks program, helping over 10,000 residents get access to healthy and local foods. Finally, while we must make accessing our resources more accessible, that's why I'm excited about the new Civiform tool, developed with pro bono support from Google and co-designed with residents and community-based organizations and city staff. This tool is designed to reduce the time and effort needed for our residents to seek and apply for city affordability services. Back to the basics. Improving equity work and new technology can all go together. Truthfully, it's the lived experience we have that informs how we see the world and how we approach the challenges we face. And that's why I'm really proud of the executive team I've built. Why I sought to build a diverse, competent, and engaged group of civic leaders. They are showing early on what we can accomplish when we build a representative government. Clearly, the challenges facing Seattle are bigger than me alone. The path requires empowering each other, the executive team, our department directors, and you, the city council. It means engaging our greatest resources, the people in our city, engaging them in the solutions we want to see. Next year, I hope to be able to gather in person with you, to deliver a speech to you and to our residents, to celebrate 1 year of work together in meaningful milestones on the issues I've laid out above. Together, we can change the narrative in our city and make Seattle a better place for the people who call it home. To do so, I'll need your help. Not tomorrow, today. Let's go to work, and thank you very much. One Seattle.